A little bit of problem with my internet connection this morning. So if I drop out, I'll be back. Hopefully that won't happen. So some of you may have already seen the new BIRPP note, just depending on what IRPs have gotten completed in the last few days. There's not a huge, it's not a huge change, but I think it will be a huge time saver. So the first thing I'm going to do is go through, I'm just going to show you what the new note looks like and give you some tips and pointers about it. Then we'll just go through, like, I don't know, 5 or 6 PowerPoint slides to reinforce what you're seeing in the note. And I'll send you those slides after we're done, just so you have some reminders if you need them.
Yes, please.
So let me just open the note. There's not much that has changed about how you open the note and status it and everything. You're still going to have to, if you have somebody that's second signing your notes, you'll have to put that information here. If you're signing your own notes, that's fine. You can continue to do that. You're going to use the little plus sign over here. This is the progress note that we're using. Notice that even though the note itself, the contents of the note have changed, the name of the note has not. So you're still going to select this GA progress note version 0.2. And here's what you're going to see when you start that note. Now, so this first example is a note for a client who has a completed and active individual recovery plan. I think this is probably just the coolest thing ever. So, and maybe some of y'all will agree with me, I don't know. So what you're going to see, this screen has been added, this goals addressed screen, and what this is doing, and I'll show you the IRP that's behind this, but it's pulling all the goals and objectives from the IRP that's active for this client. And what you'll need to do on this screen is simply check a box next to whatever goals and objectives were addressed in this session. So remember, you know, just before you were copying and pasting goals and objectives, remember that you're only selecting the goals and objectives that are addressed in this session. So if you're the CSS and you're working with the client on coming up with a relapse prevention plan, and that's what you spend the majority of your time on during this session, this is what you're going to check. So it's very cool. Oh, good. So the comments so far are that people like this. I'm happy. And so once you've selected those goals and objectives, you're going to hit submit up here, and it'll save that information. And I just want to show you then the body of the note here. There's just a couple of things that have changed in the body of the note. So of course we've removed, you used to have a box up here where you were copying goals and objectives. That's gone. You don't need to do that anymore. Sort of, and I'll explain that here in a minute. And then everything else is pretty much the same. This, since we were revising this note anyway, we moved this question about crisis safety plan down under the intervention section. So that's really the only changes to the actual note itself. So all the rest of this is pretty much the same, and I'm not going to go through all of this now because that's not, you know, it's not the focus of this training. It's just to see what's in the new note. You do still have mileage, and your signature stuff is still going to be the same. So let's see here. I saw a couple of chats. Make sure. So Tara said this is different from what. Okay, so Tara, hang on just a minute. I think I will answer your question here in just a second. she commented that this note was different from what she saw when she was doing notes last week. So probably what you saw, let me go back to the schedule here, is a note that was more like this one. Go ahead and status everything. Okay, so probably what you saw was a note that looked more like this. Okay, yeah, so Tara, so this is for you, Tara, and actually for everybody else. For a while, this is what your notes are still going to look like. You're still going to have a blank goals addressed box here. And the reason for that is, in this case, John Tester 43087 does not have an active new IRP. So any client, for instance, most of your ongoing clients who have not had an assessment or a reassessment since the end of last week are still going to show up with just a blank box here, and you're going to need to, as you did before, you're going to need to copy and paste goals and objectives into this box. But what you should see for any new clients and any clients that have a reassessment from, let's see, would it be, it was May 24th forward, they will have the IRP here in this box. So your suffering will last just a little bit longer. You'll need to do that copy paste thing here, but hopefully in the next couple of weeks, you'll begin seeing, especially with new clients, you'll begin seeing goals and objectives of the IRP available to you in this box. You'll also see this statement, no active treatment plans found. So what that's telling you is there's not an active new individual recovery plan. For your ongoing clients that you've had for a while, that's not a huge concern when you see that statement there. If you have any new clients that don't have an active IRP, then you'll want to talk to the assessor who did the new assessment for that client and find out why that is. So we're going to phase in the new IRP connects to this note, but the old IRP doesn't. There's not a way to set that up. But CareLogic has kindly given us this way to set this up for the new IRP. So, 6 months from now, if you're still seeing this statement, that's when you should be concerned, because 6 months from now, most of your clients should have a new individual recovery plan. So let me show you, go back to schedule here real quick, and show you what the actual new individual recovery plan looks like. Okay, and so what I'm doing here too is showing you how you'll look up individual recovery plans. Pretty much the same way as you would have in the past. So you have assessment documents. This is the old one, individual recovery plan with integrated care, and that's the one that was basically just a blank text box that had the individual copied or the individual recovery plan copied and pasted from a Word document into it. This is the new one. And, notice it says for central use only. When this goes agency-wide in the middle of July, we're going to remove this text, and it will just be used for everybody. So if you want to find out whether a client has a new individual recovery plan, you'll be able to use this link to get there. And if you see something showing up in this list, then you'll know, okay, this client has a new IRP. If the new IRP isn't showing up in your note for some reason, it's probably because it hasn't been signed yet. And so if you come across that and you want the assessor to sign that IRP, send them a note and let them know. When you click on the IRP, this is what it looks like. Now, I apologize that this still says treatment plan information. That's a CareLogic thing. They don't recognize individual recovery plan. But what you'll see on this opening screen is the type of IRP it is. So if it's an intake IRP, it's going to say initial. If it's an IRP that's been updated, you'll see this box checked. And typically what that means is the IRP was updated for some reason in between the initial IRP getting created and a reassessment being done. And so it'll have the same, an update will have the same end date as the regular IRP. And if it's a reassessment, you'll see this review button clicked. Here's your start and end dates for your IRP. And then to see what the actual IRP looks like. And it's a little different than what you're used to seeing. Oh, and I should also say, probably most of the time, this individual recovery plan will show up in a document group along with the BHA. But this is what the IRP looks like. Very clean, simple interface here where you can see the whole thing, and it's very obvious what's what. You've got unmet needs, goals, and objectives. You click on these. There's not much this shows you here for unmet need. Goals tells you whether the goal's active or not. This one's a new goal. There's various statuses that can be used for that. And then the objective gives you some information about that. Now, the weird thing about this, you'll notice you've got goals, you've got needs, goals, and objectives on the screen, but where are your interventions? Those are over here in a separate tab. Now, this isn't, obviously, this is not a complete IRP. If it was, you'd see a lot more interventions here. The thing that's weird about this new IRP is that these interventions don't associate with a specific objective over here. They're just all lumped together. That's the one thing I'm not as happy about with this new IRP, but we can probably put up with that. It's just a minor inconvenience. And so this will show you the frequency of the intervention, and it should be showing us, I may be missing it, or maybe I didn't add it for this one, I don't remember, for this example. You should see under here too what services are providing the various interventions. Obviously, this one's going to be a therapy, this one's going to be probably CSI or PSRI, something like that. That's what the new IRP looks like. So that's kind of the basic run through of this. Let me just remind you now of what we saw real quickly. And like I said, I'm going to send this to you. Sorry, I didn't mean to start all the way from there. You saw the scheduling stuff. The name of the note hasn't changed, so you're going to select the same note there. And, you know, again, make sure that when you check goals and objectives here, that they're ones that were the goals and objectives that were addressed in this session. So a lot of times I see people select that assessment objective, goal and objective when they're doing therapy or they're doing CSI or something like that. And unless you're actually doing assessment during a session, don't select that goal and objective. Select the one that's relevant to what you did during that session. Here's what you're going to see if you have a client that doesn't have a new IRP, and you're just going to copy and paste your goals and objectives in that blank text box that you get there. There's just a few changes, so notice that the goal and objective box isn't there anymore, and notice that crisis safety plan's been moved down there to the bottom. And that's it. That's the whole thing. So we've got 16 folks on here, it looks like. So looks like everybody got logged in. Now, I'm not going to unmute everybody at this point, but are there any questions that are out there? If there are, type them into the chat box real quick, and I can unmute you if we need to, and we can discuss aloud. So are there any questions that anybody has about this process? Okay, and this is from Jamie. And I'm going to go ahead and unmute Jamie. I'll answer this live. So Jamie's question, just wanted to confirm that they cannot use this until there is a new IRP to go along with it. Okay, so let me make sure. I'll answer that question and then tell me if I'm actually answering your question. So this note, the new note, is actually the only note that's available now. So there is no old note that you can use. And this new note is sort of multi-purpose. In fact, let me show you this real quick. This will be the only note that you have available. And so what you'll have if you have a client with a new IRP, is you'll have that goals addressed screen available. So you'll have this. If the client doesn't have a new IRP, you're only going to have this text box down here at the bottom.
Okay. That makes sense.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah. So if it's the old IRP, there's nothing up here, then you're just going to copy and paste goals and objectives from the.
Okay. Thank you. That was my main. Okay.
Okay. Yeah. So everybody should use that note. Are there any other questions? I mean, it's a fairly simple, straightforward note. If they have the new IRP, do we still need to copy, paste in the text box, or no? No, you do not have to. If they have a new IRP and the goals and objectives are showing up, just check the ones that you addressed and move on. That text box is there in notes like this one, simply as a catch-all, just in case like a new goal needed to be added to the IRP at that session, which doesn't happen a whole lot. You could potentially add that into here. But if you have this available up at the top, just check your goals and objectives up there, and nothing needs to go in this text box at the bottom. Because the point is, let's save people time in doing this note. So any other questions? Like I said, it's fairly simple and straightforward. If you're feeling like this seems too easy, that's kind of the point, is making this process easier. So you'll see these show up over time. The process here is that we're going to phase in the new IRP. So in Central, like I said, any new clients that have intakes completed will have a new IRP created. Any clients that have reassessments completed from now forward will have a new IRP created. So you'll see them start showing up soon. And I hope everybody's excited about this. I certainly am. So if there are no other questions, I'm gonna end this meeting. And if you guys have questions, so we're sort of during a pilot period. We haven't had a lot of new IRPs come in yet for people to send us feedback and give us information about what their experience is. But because this is a pilot, just keep in mind that there may be some changes over time. And I'll try to be on top of things and let you all know what's going on. Our plan is to pilot this in Central through June. And then mid-July, when we do our next BHA IRP training, we're going to introduce the new IRP company-wide, because we're hoping that by that point, all the bugs will be worked out. If you have suggestions that you want to send, I'm happy to hear those suggestions, and we'll do what we can to add them in. And yeah, so I'm not going to belabor the point any further. I will send a link to the video recording for this. We'll post it up on YouTube, so anybody that missed today, you'll have that. And I'll also send the PowerPoint out to y'all's team, so you have that for reference. But like I said, if this seems pretty simple, it is. It's simpler and it's easier. So thanks, everybody, for your time in participating today. Have a great afternoon, and enjoy the rain. All right, we'll see y'all later.